Hello and welcome to Audiobook Connection, behind the scenes with the creative teams. I'm Becky Parker-Geist and I'm your host. Audiobook Connection is your place to learn about the audiobook creative process and for authors to learn valuable tips on producing and marketing your audiobooks. This podcast is sponsored by Pro Audio Voices, helping great stories come alive through audiobook production and marketing. Thanks for joining me. Today we're going to cover some tips on how to succeed when narrating your audiobook. I put this together especially for author-narrated projects, but audiobook narrators who are maybe new in the industry may find this valuable as well. And it may also provide a helpful reminder to experienced audiobook narrators. So let's jump in. A helpful way to think about the process of recording an audiobook is that you, as the narrator, are crafting the story as an oral storyteller. And I emphasize that because many people approach it as if they are reading the book. And that approach tends to lead to a style of narration that is less interesting to listen to and can be a turnoff for many people. So we really want to think about it as a storytelling experience. And this is whether you're doing fiction or nonfiction. Now, the studio setup is an important part of the equation, obviously. Maybe not obviously, but it is. It's important because the listener experience when listening to an audiobook is so important. And if the audio quality is poor, then audiobook listeners are more likely to not ever get the audiobook, or it will likely be rejected when you try to distribute it because audiobook retailers realize the importance of that high quality audio. And so the industry has really set a standard for what is acceptable. So your studio settings, whether that's your gain, your volume, or several other different aspects of the technical side of things, I'm going to focus less on that for this particular podcast. But what I just want to say is that that aspect of it is important. And so as you move into your preparation for recording your audiobook, you'll want to first make sure that your audio quality is good. Now, let's get into the fun part, and that is the recording experience, the performance of the book itself. So that first reminder is that it is a performance. The storytelling is a performance. Now, it's very different from a stage performance, obviously, because there's not live action. It's different from a film performance because you don't have the visual. It is really relying entirely on the performance of you as a voice talent, whether you're the author or a narrator, doing this professionally, or, as a volunteer for somebody. So let's talk about some of the things that are really key in delivering a good performance. And this one podcast episode is not ever going to be able to replace years of study and experience and practice, rehearsal, all of that. So just know that. And these, again, are some tips. There are coaches who coach audiobook narrators as a living. That is a service that they offer. And so many voice talent will go through years of training. I did myself, not specifically in audio recording, but as an actor. And then I went into years of working in audio recording, specifically in the audiobooks field, and learned a lot during that process. So that was a way to combine the different aspects of training that I received at two different times. So let's talk about what this means in terms of your performance and how you can get it to be the best that it can be. First of all, I want to remind you that once you've got your audio setup, your studio setup, then you want to think about the next piece is probably your relationship to the microphone. Some of the things that I'm going to talk about a little later will actually be done earlier because you're going to have to think about your performance and who you're doing it for. But I'm going to start from this studio setting spot because that's where we talked about the importance of the audio settings. So once you are ready to start recording, you've got your audio set up, you want to think about your relationship to your microphone. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, the best audiobook performance is going to include, as part of it, a consistent relationship between you and the microphone. And that is related to the direction that you are facing when you're speaking. It's related to how far away from your microphone you are. And so you want to be able to maintain this steady, consistent relationship. So this way, this distance, and this angle. Because here's what can easily happen is if you're not aware of it, then you may turn away and something might distract you while you're speaking and you look away. Or if you are reading from a text that is, let's say, down way below the mic so that you tip your head down. Or if it's way up high and you tip your head up or off to the side. Any of those things can easily happen. And if you are not able to be consistent with that, you're going to end up with kind of a mess that needs to be cleaned up and re-recorded, sections that will need re-recording, all as a result of that changing relationship. Now, when you're an experienced performer in the booth, you will find, or should find, that maintaining that relationship just comes as second nature. But if you're new to this, that could be really hard and can be distracting because you're trying to pay attention to many different things when you're doing this performance. This is one of the benefits of having a professional do it because they have ingrained within themselves some of these fundamentals that if you are coming into it as someone new, and like the author doing this for the first time ever, it's going to be hard to remember all the different things that you have to remember and still do a good delivery of performance of your work. All right, so we've talked about that relationship. Now, another aspect of doing a great performance is related to phrasing. Which words are you going to stress? And that sounds very mechanical, and you may think, well, that's always going to be obvious. I've been pretty amazed, actually, in working with authors when they've been recording and they don't phrase the sentences the way that they're clearly written on the page to me, but I think that they just don't recognize the importance of the performance of those words on the page and how we have to determine which are the words to stress. They may come naturally, as I say, but they don't always. I'll give some examples. So this is probably the easiest one to recognize, but the kind of this as opposed to that kind of statement. Like, it wasn't his decision, it was mine. Okay. If you say it wasn't his decision, it was mine, it comes off a little differently. We don't quite get the point in the same way. Now, that point is also going to be about another aspect of this, and that is character. So it depends on what's going on with the character in context. Is she jealous? It wasn't his decision, it was mine. Or feeling powerless? It wasn't his decision, it was mine. Or is she feeling powerful? It wasn't his decision, it was mine. So you see how the different characters and attitudes play into the performance of the sentence. Well, that can also play in even if we're thinking just about nonfiction. and maybe not a character per se, but in a sense, your narrator then is your character, right? Are you the confident CEO sharing your hard-earned business acumen? Are you the questioning patient? Are you the calm healer? Are you the teacher? And if you're the teacher, who are your students? Which brings me to the next aspect that we're going to jump into right after we take a short pause, and that is, who is this for? So let's take a short pause. We'll come right back. Excited about the prospect of recording your own audiobook, but not really sure you know exactly what you're doing or how to do all the parts of it? At Pro Audio Voices, we work with authors just like you. You don't need to learn all the ins and outs of audiobook production. You just need to know what you need to do as the author narrator and to have the support of a team that will help you produce the very best audiobook possible. At Pro Audio Voices, we are committed to helping you succeed with your audiobook project. Whether you need help from start to finish or just certain aspects along the way, there is a team available for you. Reach out to us at proaudiovoices.com and click to get started and book a discovery call today. At Pro Audio Voices, we are inspiring the world through stories we bring to life. The next thing that we want to take a look at is the audience. And this is one of those where some of this will be taking place earlier. This is something that you would want to do in advance. You would want to be really clear on who is the audience for your audiobook. And once you know who they are, you want to speak to them. We have different ways of speaking to different people. Are you the confident CEO, the questioning patient, the calm healer, the teacher? We speak to those different audiences in slightly different ways as a recognition of who they are and what our relationship is to them as the audience, right? And then related to that is, what do you want that audience to do? Kind of, what is the broad call to action that you're hoping for? What is the result? What is the impact that you're trying to have with this book? Are you a sassy comedian who wants to make your audience laugh? Are you a coach who is trying to inspire them? Are you a novelist who's trying to thrill them or scare them? So who is your audience, and what would you like them to experience as a result of this performance that you're doing? And then I want to circle back around to consistency, because this is really important. Now, I'm going to dive into some details here, but I just want to say that this is part of what sets audiobook narrators apart from other people who are doing voiceover, who maybe are great at commercials or other kinds of short form things. They might even be great at interviews or whatever. But this is a long form. This is a form in which that performance that we're doing needs to stay consistent, not monotonous. They're distinctly different, but a consistent performance. So that is in part what I already talked about earlier on with that relationship to the microphone. But it's also about maintaining a consistent tone. And here's where it becomes really obvious, is when you record an audiobook and then later you get pickups, so you have to do some fixes. If you come back in, can you get your tone to sound so smooth, so much like it did before in that other session, that a listener isn't even going to notice that it's different, that you did it on a different day? That's a real skill, and it's one that even audiobook narrators sometimes struggle with. For someone who's brand new to this, maybe you're an author narrator, then this can be really, really challenging. So there's that tone but without getting monotonous. And how do we keep it from being monotonous? It's all about spontaneity. So we know who we're talking to, and we want to, this is where that acting performance really comes into play. That it should feel like this is happening now. It's happening now in their mind, and the way that we present it is going to either help or hinder that creation of the story in their mind. So this sense of spontaneity, that this is the first time you've said this out loud. This is the first time you've told that story. And this is also related to it being conversational. Now different books are going to have different feels in terms of that conversationality, but the closer you can get to it feeling like someone that you either respect or care about or want to listen to for whatever reason, that they're telling you this personally, one person to one person. That's a powerful thing. It adds this feeling of authenticity that really helps it be successful, your performance. And then the other thing we want to think about in terms of consistency is energy. Typically, with audiobook narration, you're doing sessions that are going to be at least a couple hours long, and that is going to, require a fair amount of energy. And what we don't want to hear is you're all energetic in the beginning, and then by the end, you're just kind of going through the motions and reading the words because you're tired out. Imagine finishing a chapter like that, or being in the middle of a chapter, and then you come in the next day, and now you're back up here and you've got all this energy. It's going to be really obvious and not going to sound very good, right? So we want to find those ways to keep our energy up throughout and consistent throughout the session. One way that I recommend doing that is standing. Standing can actually be really helpful in terms of maintaining that, especially if it's new to you, this whole recording process. So I hope this has been helpful. What we've talked about is how you as a narrator, whether you're an author who is narrating your own book or someone who is probably newer in the industry, how you can craft that story and be an effective oral storyteller, not just a reader of an audiobook. I hope this has been helpful to you. Please subscribe to Audiobook Connection. We really appreciate being able to present this content for you. And if you would like to help support this work, we do have a Patreon page, and that's patreon.com/Audiobook Connection Podcast. If you have specific questions that you'd like me to address on the podcast, please reach out to us. Go to proaudiovoices.com and send us an email with your questions, and we'll get to those. You could send those to ac@proaudiovoices.com. And a reminder that if you are looking for some great audiobook listens, please check out Amplify Audiobooks. There are apps available in both mobile stores, and this is a place where you can get audiobooks. And when you purchase through Amplify Audiobooks, the authors have received much more of the money that you spend, and it's a much more supportive platform. We're really trying to create an equitable space for authors to be able to distribute their audiobooks. Again, thank you for being with me today. Thanks for joining us for Audiobook Connection, behind the scenes with the creative teams. Please take a moment to subscribe at audiobookconnection.com. The podcast is sponsored by Pro Audio Voices, helping great stories come alive through audiobook production and marketing. Learn more at proaudiovoices.com. Again, thanks for being with us, and please join us next week.